It was on an autumn day in Strasbourg when I first saw the Erl-King. I had not somehow crossed into another world in a moment of lax attention, or dreamed the veiled figure into shadowy existence from my window. Instead, I was witnessing a genuine apparition on account of the news I had just received concerning my father's suicide back in Crystal Palace.
How Pale follows a narrator called Isabelle, who's an academic. She's visiting her partner in France when she finds out about her father's death. And as her partner has just gone away to South America, she decides, rather than face the realities of her father's death, she opts to stay in Strasbourg over the winter. Strasbourg is a huge, important character in the book. Certainly there are pages and pages about its history, some of which is obviously totally made up, but I think it is more of a book about avoidance, avoiding responsibilities, avoiding emotional baggage, and avoiding the things that are actually really important because they're just too much. I hope people find it interesting. Certainly it's not a book in a form which I think is usual, because so much of it seems as if it's research, and the real story behind it is unfolding underneath that research, and also the angle of that research. The book is littered with these little fragments illustrated with the photographs of history in Strasbourg, of different people and places and objects and things like that. And certainly they're not simply bits of research. They're angled in a way which is hopefully more suggestive of the person who is researching and writing them than just simply a piece of information. I like strange narrators. I like strange first-person voices. It comes as much from my love for Thomas Bernhardt and Elfriede Jelinek as much as anything else, but certainly I like writing from the perspective of a broken voice. I find it quite therapeutic. I find it quite creative, and it allows you to play some quite underhand tricks with the voice and what they're telling you as a reader. The photographs were really important in the writing process, but they ended up not being so important in the final book. There are only a quarter of the photographs that I initially sought out in the markets and old shops in Strasbourg left in the book. It was partly because they just weren't necessary. They're described in the text. They seem to be dictating the atmosphere of the book in a way which was a little bit too overpowering, and so I removed quite a lot of them, even though they're still mentioned. And the photographs do exist, but they're just not necessarily on the page. There's only a couple on the page, and they're deliberately in the segments which are littered throughout the book, which are designed to be Isabelle's own research. Darkness had taken on an unusual atmosphere since hearing of my father's death. It was too much of a blank canvas upon which anything could be dreamt up to play and dance on. Trying for 2 nights to sleep with the shutters down led to my being transported to a wet forest, the sound of water dripping loudly from the leaves and branches of trees that resided there. In the forest I was running from something, the sound of branches cracking not from footfall but higher up, as if something flew out of the void after me, hovering several feet in the air but towards me all the same. I could make out the view, lying on my back in bed but staring out through the creaking woodland that extended as a vision through the darkness of the ceiling, even making out shapes constructed quite by accident through the certain crossings of twigs and bark. At almost any point, however, this woodland can turn quickly into a trap, for surrounded by trees I would find myself stuck in the company of my father's body, or worse. I don't think it's certainly not a book which is overflowing with optimism, but at the same time it's dealing with grief, it's dealing with a sense of isolation, it's dealing with a sense of being cast adrift, and certainly I found writing it and reading books of a similar ilk to be quite therapeutic and cathartic in this current age. It might seem totally illogical, but I think there is something in that by experiencing those things, we recognise that those feelings are shared and we're not alone.